Hi, welcome along to World Cup Daily, the show that discusses World Cup and Arsenal transfer news. And the games yesterday and last night were really, really good. And we now know who the semi-finalists are going to be. The first semi-final took place, it was between, quarter-final, shall I say, took place, it was between Argentina and Belgium. And I must say, a very disappointing performance by Belgium in that game. I thought that they really didn't have a go at Argentina, not until later on in the game, and then it all seemed to be just route one, lump it up to Fellaini kind of thing. And for the amount of talent that's on display for Belgium, it was really disappointing. Hazard went missing in the game, and it was pretty, I wouldn't say easy for Argentina, but pretty comfortable for them in the end. I mean, a fantastic goal by Gonzalo Higuain. When I saw that goal yesterday, I kept thinking to myself, if only we'd have signed this guy last summer. He's an instinctive goal scorer. And that was the difference. And Messi, as usual, pulling the strings. He went on a couple of fantastic runs in that game. And now they are through to the semi-finals. And, of course, they're going to meet the victors of the other game last night, which was Holland versus Costa Rica. Holland coming out on top on penalties. It was 0-0 after extra time. And by the way, Costa Rica nearly snatched a win in that extra time, and that would have been some story. But the whole story yesterday was about what Holland did. They switched the goalkeeper just before the end of the extra time. They switched the goalkeeper. They took off their keeper, Jasper Cillessen, and they brought on Tim Krul of Newcastle, and he went on to make the saves to win them the tournament. Big call by Louis van Gaal. If you'd have got that wrong, everybody would have been saying, what are you doing? Why did you do that? Because it's nothing, I can never remember seeing that ever done before. It's never been done in a World Cup for definite. And it was a brave decision by him. You've got to hand it to him. I know a lot of my Man United mates was pointing out to me and saying, this is the sort of guy we brought in that is going to be able to make big calls. And it was a massive call. And Tim Krul came on and he made the saves. Now, a lot of people were speculating last night and they were saying that probably he brought on Tim Krul because it was something they had planned, etc. But Van Gaal since come out and said it was not really a planned thing. He hadn't really told Cillessen. He just told Tim Krul that if it went to penalties, I might call on you. He said that Tim Krul's 6'4", Cillessen's only 6'2", and he thought that Krul's bigger presence and height would be able to pull off more of the saves, and it worked out. One thing I didn't like about that penalty shootout was Tim Krul's sledging of the Costa Rican players. I mean, he really got into their heads. He was going up to them, he's pointing like that and saying you're going to miss. But I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. It definitely had the Costa Rican players a bit spooked. I mean, first of all, they're seeing a keeper come on who hasn't played the game, and they must be thinking to themselves, well, hold on, hang on a minute. This guy must be some sort of specialist who's worked us out. They've already got that in their head. Then he comes in and starts playing all the mind games and sledging and stuff like that. Now, we know that goes on, but I just felt that yesterday he was a bit over the top with his sledging. It's not going to endear Holland, I don't think, to the neutrals in the semi-final, although they are playing Argentina, so they'll have the backing of all the Brazilian fans. But Holland scraped through. They haven't been spectacular, Holland, apart from the victory over Spain. I don't think they've been spectacular. They don't play the greatest of football. You take Ian Robin out of that team, and it's not the greatest of. It's not Dutch football as you know it, is it? I mean, Van Gaal has his teams set up in a way that he's not going to lose, and then as I said, he can rely on Robin for that extra X factor of skill. I thought Schneider had a very good game yesterday. And Robin van Persie last night, he looked to me like an aging player in the last couple of games, actually. I mean, we've got to remember, he's like, nearly approaching 32 now, and he's starting to look that. He's still got all the skills, still, deadly in front of goal, although he wasn't last night. But probably with all those games coming together, he definitely looked a bit fatigued and tired and just wasn't on the money last night. So they'll be playing Argentina in the next round. That'll be a great game. And, yeah, they're through. And we now know who the semi-finalists are going to be. It's going to be Brazil versus Germany. Still also interesting there with Ozil, Podolski, Mertesacker. And in the other semi-final, of course, it's going to be Holland versus Argentina. And it all seems set up for that final that everybody in South America wants, which is Argentina versus Brazil. And if that works out, wow, what a final that will be. Let's get into the transfer news. One of the worst kept secrets out at the moment, apart from the Puma kits, is the whole Mathieu Debuchy thing. He went on French TV yesterday and he's admitted that he's in talks at the moment with Arsenal. He said nothing's been done, but for him even to admit that he's in talks with Arsenal, that seems to confirm it's all a done deal. I've been told that the medical's going to happen during this week and he will be signing on for Arsenal. So the Debuchy thing, that's more or less, you know, nailed on. That's going to be happening. The other one that has been really hotting up is the Alexis Sanchez to Arsenal deal. Now, a lot of people over the past couple of weeks, when this one's been bandied about, have been saying, oh yes, the normal Arsenal fluff, the normal Arsenal rumours that are going around. This is a definite, very, very live rumour, very, very live thing that's happening. I mean, we've seen yesterday that David Ornstein, who's a very respected journalist from the BBC, he has also reported on the story now. He reported on the Debuchy to Arsenal, and he's also reported on the Sanchez. And there are other papers in Spain that are saying that Arsenal are in advanced talks to sign Alexis Sanchez. Now, it's still a complicated deal. It's hotting up, and it's a very, very good likelihood that it could get done. But there are teams that are interested. The main team that are interested in getting in there is Juventus, and that is the main threat, I think, to Arsenal, is Juventus. We've been seeing today that Juventus may be prepared to sell Paul Pogba, or they may be prepared to sell Arturo Vidal, with Manchester United really interested. And if they could raise the money off of that, then they'd use that to buy Sanchez, because they haven't got loads and loads of money floating around, but they've got a lot of assets that if they sold one of those, they would have a lot of money. So there's talk today that they may be prepared to sell one of those big hitters in order to bring in Alexis Sanchez. Sanchez might like to go to Italy. Remember, before he went to Barcelona, he played for Udinese in Italy. So he may be prepared to go back to Italy to play for the biggest club, to play for the team that's been winning all the titles out there and have still got Champions League. There's one thing for sure, he's definitely in talks at the moment with Arsenal, advanced talks, as many of the papers say, and there is a big, you know, I don't want to talk it up too much, but there's a strong, it's not just a rumour, it could happen. It could happen, and I think we're going to know a lot more about this deal as this week goes by. As I said, it also depends on the whole Luis Suarez to Liverpool thing getting tied up. Sanchez has already said he doesn't want to go to Liverpool, so it's looking like a straight fight between Arsenal and Juventus for the signature of Alexis Sanchez, and I know that a lot of Arsenal fans out there would welcome the signature of Sanchez. He is definitely, as we've seen in the World Cup, we've seen in the Champions League, we've seen throughout the years, we even saw when he came over to Wembley in 2013, he is a world-class operator. The rumours have been flying around all summer as well about Thomas Vermaelen leaving Arsenal and going to Manchester United. A lot of people seem to think that that's done. That's almost certain to happen. Manchester United are going to offer Arsenal 10 million. 1 year left on his contract. Arsenal very unlikely to turn that down. So who will they get to replace Thomas Vermaelen if he leaves? And one of those targets is Joel Veltman. You saw him playing yesterday. He plays for Holland, also plays for Ajax. Only 22 years of age. Arsenal very keen on him should Thomas Vermaelen go. And they think he suits what they want to do perfectly, and is also a player for the future. He's, you know, being at only 22, although he's got, you know, experience of playing at the World Cup, so that will set him in good stead as well. So that's a player that they're looking at. Also faced competition from Spurs for the signature of Joel Veltman. So that again, you know, it's not easy to pull off transfers at the moment because loads of clubs with loads of money are in for a lot of these signatures. And the final one, Keylor Navas. You saw him in goal yesterday for Costa Rica, probably been the best keeper in the tournament. He was brilliant. I felt sorry for him that he weren't able to pull it off in the penalty shootout, but he plays for Levante in Spain in La Liga. He's got an 8.2 million euros release clause in his contract, and also apparently looking at that. Of course, that is another one of those priority areas for Arsenal. They need a goalkeeper. They do not have a backup. Remember, we've seen now that Fabianski has definitely been sold. He's gone to Swansea, so they need somebody in that position. And they are having a look at Navas. He's been brilliant in the World Cup. Could he replicate it in the Premier League? That is something that we might get a chance to find out. Let's get into a few of your comments here. Ahmed Hassan says, any chance of Mandzukic to Arsenal? Apparently going to Atletico Madrid. I've been, for what I've seen and been told and have read, is that he's definitely going to be going to Atletico Madrid for about £15 million, which I think that's quite a low price. Maybe Arsenal need to look at that again. The only thing is, I've always keep saying, very, very similar to Olivier Giroud. Dick Patel says, Keylor Navas is sick, but he's linked to Atletico Madrid. That's true. He, again, is linked with Atletico Madrid. Remember, all these players at this time of year that are available, not going to be just linked with Arsenal. Arsenal are interested. There's loads of clubs out there with money that are going to be also looking at the same targets. And that's why Arsenal, if they want somebody, they've got to be aggressive and decisive in this transfer market if they're going to want to get those targets that they want. A-League HC says, hey, Robbie, if we bought Sanchez, would he be a starter? If so, what position? Yeah, I mean, listen, I think he'd be a starter. I think he'd have time to settle into the team because we've got other players who can play in various positions. But I think I think Arsene Wenger will be looking at Alexis Sanchez and thinking to himself, I want to convert this guy into an out-and-out striker. An out-and-out striker, sort of very similar to Luis Suarez, that can kind of roam around and create damage. And I think that might be how Arsenal might be approaching it. Of course, we know he can play on the right. He can also drift onto the left. So, listen, he'll be involved in that front three. GFD says, Robbie, what do you think about Sanchez getting a higher wage, £150,000 a week, at Liverpool compared to Arsenal's offer of £135,000? Do you think he'd be tempted by the wage offer from Liverpool? Of course, the higher wages will be tempting, but from what I understand, he's not really interested in Liverpool. It looks that way because Liverpool are just after the straight cash for Luis Suarez for them to then go out and buy whoever they want to buy. So it doesn't look like they're in there. Well, maybe they're interested in Sanchez, but maybe they realise they're not going to be getting Sanchez. So I think it's between us and Juventus. So we're going to have to wait and see. Rohan Sharma says, Colombia defender Pablo Almero is wanted by Arsenal and Southampton. He looked good, he did, Almiro. I was very impressed. Very strong he was. And, you know, that might be a good shout. We always got to be careful sometimes with some of these players we see in the World Cup. How many players have we seen down the years that have been brilliant in the World Cup, and then after the World Cup, when they start playing club football, they're not quite as, you know, they don't live up to it. I mean, Gary Medel, we saw playing for Cardiff, looked decent. In the World Cup, he looked a world beater. But for Cardiff, I'm not going to say he wasn't poor or anything, but he just looked decent, nothing more than that. So always got to be careful. Old School says, 007 says, after all these rumours, we'll end up with Remy, Debuchy and Kalou. Please, I don't mind Remy. I think Remy is going to happen. I don't mind Debuchy, but Kalou, no way do I want Kalou. Rowan Sharma also says, Newcastle fans ruthlessly abuse Matthew Debuchy. With hashtag thanks to Debuchy as he closes on an Arsenal transfer. Yes, and that's definitely going to be happening. Viknesh makes a good point here. He says, does Schneiderlin mean no chance of Khedira? Now, listen, I personally, I feel, as I said, what I've been reading is that Arsenal are very interested in Sami Khedira. That is their preferred option. If they're unable to get him, then it's all going to be about Schneiderlin. I'd love to see. Khedira would be perfection for that Arsenal midfield, in my eyes. We need somebody in that position that is so solid, but also can play as well. And I think Khedira, if he's 20-odd million, we need to go out there. We need to be aggressive, and we need to get him. N.I. Brutal ZZ said, it's weird because for the past 2 seasons with Arsenal, We've had no one to bring in on from the bench. This season, we could bring on some worldies like City and Chelsea. That's very true. That's if we get the right signings done. JCA says Wenger always seems to sign players we never get linked to. That, again, is very true. He always pluck something out of left field. Pinglaboo says, no idea why a lot of Arsenal fans are moaning about the Debuchy deal. If Aurier came and fell, then we would say that we should have gone for Debuchy. Debuchy is more experienced and better. Come on, guys. Listen, again, Serge Aurier looked very good. He looked good in the World Cup, but I've got no problem. I said this yesterday. I've got no problem with Debuchy coming to Arsenal. I think he'll be a top player for Arsenal. I love the way he bongs on down those wings. I think he will suit Arsenal's style of play perfect, and he is very experienced. And I think he'll be a decent buy, definitely. 11 Blade says Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger wants to bring in either Germany midfielder Sami Khedira or Southampton's Morgan Schneiderlin this summer, according to the Sunday Mirror. Yeah, we've reported on that one. And as I just said, I think the preference is on Khedira, but if they can't get Khedira, then maybe they'll move for Schneiderlin. Tamikov Neve says, I won't believe in the transfer of Sanchez till Arsenal have it on their site. Listen, until Arsenal have got it on their website, there's no signing that's done. We know that. We're just talking about the rumours that are flying around there, but there is definitely a lot of activity around the whole Sanchez thing. It's whether Arsenal can now get it over the line. That is what it's down to. Can the guys who do the deal at Arsenal get this massive deal over the line? If they can, it's going to set a good precedent for our transfer business and dealings for the rest of the summer. HBK Gunner says, do you think we are closer to Sanchez than we were to Higuain? Oh, you know what? Last summer, we were very, very, very close to Higuain. The Higuain deal, how I was told it, I remember receiving a phone call from somebody who's got very, very good connections at Arsenal, who said to me, Robbie, get out there, report it, it's done. It's happening. 100% that deal is about to happen. And before you say it, it's not the same person who told me about Loic Remy this season. But this person told me about Higuain, and then it just didn't happen. Now, what I understood last season is that Arsenal just changed their minds. They were going to get Higuain. It wasn't just the fact that the money all of a sudden went up because Napoli came in and they were unhappy. They were unhappy about that, but they just changed their mind. They just changed their mind and decided that they heard about Suarez being available, thought Suarez is a better player, already knows about the Premier League, and they thought, listen, we can't not go after Suarez. If there's this release clause, let's get him. He'll be brilliant at Arsenal. And they changed their mind, and then Napoli just swooped in and got Higuain. And it was one of those things. It was a big call, but it didn't work out. Now, with the Sanchez rumours, Sanchez rumours are definitely, these are not just willy-nilly rumours. I mean, when you get, as I said, people like David Ornstein reporting and putting that out on the BBC website, you know it's got a lot of legs behind it. But it's whether, as I said, these guys can bring it across the line. That is what it's going to boil down to. That is what we're going to find out over this week and next week, whether Arsenal have got the kahunas to get this deal done and get Sanchez in. Thanks for watching World Cup Daily today. We'll be back tomorrow at the earlier time. I know we come to you a little bit late today. We'll be back tomorrow with you at the earlier time. And looking forward to those semi-finals now. Brazil versus Germany, Holland versus Argentina. By the way, I've got the prediction. I didn't get the scores right in both games, but I've got the predictions right. I said that it would be Argentina. I said that Brazil would also get through. Listen, I'm going for, I think Brazil are going to beat Germany, even though Ozil and them guys, I really wanted to do well for those guys, but I just fancy Brazil to get to the final now. I know they're without Neymar, but they're going to be pumped. They're going to want to do it for Neymar. I just fancy Brazil in that game. And Holland versus Argentina, from what I've seen of Holland, they've looked decent in this tournament. They're very reliant on Iron Robin, but I just think it's one of those games, again, where Messi's going to come to the party, and I think he'll get Argentina over the line. And we're going to have that Brazil versus Argentina final. That would be brilliant. Thanks for watching, and see you again tomorrow.